Hi, welcome to this Blender video tutorial entitled World Editor Stars. The Blender World Editor contains a star generation effect, placing halo-like points of light randomly about the background sky. To demonstrate the World Editor Stars, I've placed a model of a house in my Blender scene. The scene is illuminated by a single sun lamp set at a low energy level and colored a dark bluish green. The world background contains the default horizon and zenith colors. I'll render the scene. In the World Editor, I will checkmark the Blend Sky checkbox and set the horizon color to a dark blue-green with red at 0, green at 0.075, and blue at 0.15. I'll set the zenith color to black. I'll then render the scene. The house is now set off against a dark sky gradient blend. Scrolling down in the World Editor, I'll checkmark the Stars checkbox and render the scene using the default settings. The sky is dotted with a number of white dots. There are 4 general star settings. The first is size. I'll lower the size to 0.3 and render the scene. Notice that some of the stars are much smaller, but some are near the same size as earlier. The size setting controls the average size of the stars. The number of stars in the sky is generally controlled by the separation setting. By default, this is set to 15. As this number is lowered, the distance between the stars is decreased, and thus there are more stars over the same area. I will lower this separation level to 5 and render the scene. The sky is now filled with stars. I'll raise the level to 13 and render the scene. The distance between the star field and the camera is controlled by the minimum distance setting. The larger this number, the farther away from the camera the star field is placed, and thus the more distant it will appear. It is important here that your camera clipping distance be large enough to see the distant stars. I'll select my camera and click on the Object Data Editor icon. My camera has its distance clipped at 100 Blender units. I'll increase this to 250 Blender units. Back in the World Editor, I'll set the minimum star distance to 200 Blender units. I'll then render the scene. The star field now appears much farther off in the distance. The final setting is the Colors Controller. This is a number between 0 and 1 and adds a percentage of random color hues to the stars. I'll set this level at 0.75 and render the scene. Now, it is perhaps hard for you to see in this video, but the stars now have a variation in color, some warm, some cool, and some white.